Hi, Anna. Hi, Belinda. It's an absolute honor to welcome you to our Women's Summit today. You don't often get to speak to two Olympic medalists, two Olympic gold medalists at that, so we're very excited to have you. And I would like to first address the Olympics, which obviously had to be postponed this year. I'd be really curious to know, having such a large, important event, one for which that you have to train mentally as well as physically, postponed for a whole year. How do you cope with that and stay prepared mentally for an extra 12 months? We could start with you, Belinda. How did this postponement go for you?
Well, hi. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. And yeah, I mean, it's a very tough decision, obviously, because you're training very hard, especially for the Olympic Games. It was my highlight. But I think in my sport, especially, I think it's not much of a difference because we have a lot of tournaments anyway and a lot of highlights as well with the Grand Slams and everything. So for me, for sure, it was tough to having the Olympic Games canceled. But on the other side, the same routine and regime continued for me. So there was nothing I basically had to change. So I can imagine with other sports, it's much more difficult, especially if you have to peak at a certain right time for the Olympics and just you have a different training schedule. So for me, it was obviously sad, but I was happy that it happened in 2021.
And for Anna, how was that compared for you? Because obviously both of you are active in different sports, Belinda in tennis and Anna in cycling. How did this postponement work out for you in your sport?
Yeah, hello from Switzerland to everybody. Nice to be here. For me, well, I think for many cyclists, it was quite hard because usually cyclists, they train together in a group. But I'm not the typical cyclist in that respect. So I have always trained a lot on my own. So I decided I have to view COVID as an advantage for me because I could basically keep training as usual. And yeah, I also viewed it as an extra year actually to further develop and just try and be even stronger, like whenever the Olympics would happen in the end.
You mentioned that you train alone, and when you won, it was an absolute sensation in Austria. I live in Austria myself. We're all very happy for you. If I'm not mistaken, it was the first gold medal for a woman in cycling at the Olympics. And you mentioned that you decide to train alone, or you choose to train alone, which makes you different from most cyclists. Why did you decide to approach it that way?
Well, it was a bit of a side effect of being actually a full-time mathematician at university. So I was very restricted with the time I had, and I just wasn't flexible enough. So I would just leave for my training when I could in terms of work. So there is no time to organize group rides. And then also another aspect is that I have a very specific training plan. And sometimes in a group ride, you can't really do the training you would want to do.
So basically, it's a pragmatic decision. Like wouldn't have worked out any other way. So for Belinda, how do you prepare mentally for a match? And also the reverse question, how do you stay strong after defeat? I mean, tennis is obviously a sport where there are many cups a year. There's always a fight for the rankings where you have to fight for your positions and you have to stay mentally strong, virtually throughout the year. How do you keep yourself focused, but also motivated perhaps after a defeat?
Yeah, I mean, in tennis, this is, I think, the most brutal part of the sport because it's really, you have so many tournaments a year and it's impossible, to win a lot of them. So I think if you win 5 tournaments a year, that's already great. So all the other times, you basically leave the tournament as a loser. So it's always an up and down of emotions, I would say, because you win the match, you're so happy and relieved, and then you play the next day and you lose. So it's always very tough. I think I'm still learning how to cope with it. But I also see it this way, that you always have a chance to do better in the next tournament. So I can imagine in some other sports, they have 1, 2, or 3 highlight competitions in 4 years, and that's one of them is the Olympic Games. So I'm kind of like telling myself that if it doesn't work out this week, it can work out next week. And how I prepare for the match, I mean, I'm playing tennis since I'm a small kid, so I think you learn to have these kind of routines. You learn what's best for you. How do you like to warm up? How do you like to eat before? How do you mentally prepare? Maybe even the night before. I'm talking like to strategics with my coach every time. And then before the match, I also kind of automatically visualize a little bit and just focus and be prepared for the match short before.
How important are the people that you surround yourself with? I imagine you spend a lot of time with your coach, your team. You have to travel alone as well. Well, as you play singles, then you are alone, unlike, for instance, a football team where everyone gets to travel together. How do you make sure that the people around you have your best interests at heart and really support you?
Yeah, I think it's really important in tennis to have the right team, because obviously you spend a lot of time with them, like on the court, but as well as off the court, because you travel so much and you travel with the same people. You have to make sure it matches on the court, but also off. So you have to get along well. And I mean, it's very difficult. They have to really support you, especially mentally, because it's not easy. And I mean, I have a tennis coach, I have a fitness coach that travel full time with me. And this is how I'm used to like functioning. So every time, there is a change, you really have to make sure it's good for you. It matches all the aspects of your kind of travel and game and tennis life. And I mean, they're the most important people I have, because, at the end of the day, tennis is really a lonely sport. So you're alone on the court and you have to make all the problem solving yourself after all. So they can really, they have to help you basically with all the preparation and off the court.
So Anna, you already mentioned that you train alone because of your mathematics on the side. That would be my question for you. What is primary, secondary? Can you even categorize it like that? I mean, you are studying mathematics. I think you're doing your PhD. I saw online that you've published papers also this year, so you haven't even taken much of a break from that, as well as winning a gold medal at the Olympics. How do you juggle these two areas of work on such a high level?
Yeah, there have been different phases in my life. When I was younger, I was completely focused on maths, actually, and cycling was just an afterthought, or in general, like sports was just an afterthought, a hobby. And then gradually sports took over, and I would say over the last 2 years, perhaps, sports was more central to me in terms of mindset. Of course, I still had my obligations at my job, but I couldn't avoid thinking about sports, thinking about my training all the time. And actually, I already completed my PhD several years ago, and I'm working as a scientific collaborator at EPFL, so at the university in Switzerland. So I'm no longer studying. But yeah, I mean, there's no magic tool to help you combine two things like that. And to be honest, I never really managed to combine them at the same level. So there was always the focus on one thing or the focus on the other thing. And right now, after having won this gold medal, to be honest, the focus is very much on sports now.
So maybe that the fact that you train alone and tennis is also a one-on-one game is a similarity between both of you. I would like to ask Belinda, since it is a game where one against one, especially in singles, do you consider yourself a maverick in your personal life as well? Do you take that attitude with you also off the court of dealing with things alone, not needing anyone else's help?
It's a good question. I would say tennis is definitely helping me also for my life off the court, because, I'm really playing tennis since I'm very small, and also in school it helped me a lot. It taught me a lot of things. For sure, it's, I think, helping me problem solving as well. But I would say maybe on the court, I am almost forced to kind of problem solve alone. So off the court, I really enjoy if someone can help me, and I like to share my challenges and problems with someone. And I think I'm a little bit different off the court for this topic.
So we have 2 minutes left. I would wrap up with the same question for both of you. 2021 is almost over, and we'd love to know what both of you have planned for 2022. Maybe we can start with Anna then.
That's a really hard question. I wish I knew the answer. I've been trying to figure it out since Tokyo. So, I mean, the gold medal gave me lots of opportunities to develop further in sports. I have much more contacts, much more funding. And so I would like to better understand many aspects of performance. So creating my own little physiology lab at home, for example. So really understanding what is my training actually doing to my body. I guess that's one of my main goals.
And you, Belinda?
Yeah, I mean, me too. I think this is going to be my 8th or 9th year on the tour. So I'm definitely, starting to really establish myself now as a good player. I reached one of my dreams, winning the Olympics. And now, of course, I have more goals. I want to get better in the rankings, stay very consistent with my performances, and just try and get close, to winning one in the biggest tournaments of the year. So, but all of this obviously is starting with a healthy and fit kind of body to go with, and still to enjoy it, to be happy to travel, and just to start a year well again.
Well, I know we are all very excited to see what both of you do in 2022, and it was an absolute honor to have you here at the Women's Summit today. So thank you for taking the time very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
And